All right. Hi, Myra. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the first little segment of the Tea Time sessions. I'm Janine.
And I'm Jerralyn.
And our guest today is Myra Hollis. She's a marriage and family therapist. So we wanted to have her on because she's an expert in the mental health space. And also, we wanted to hear her insight on some topics. So, Myra, today we wanted to kind of go over navigating mental health at home. Since we're all home right now, did you have any advice on how to navigate your headspace?
Yeah, so I have a few things. I encourage people to go outside. I
Mhm.
know there are limits to what you can do outside, but studies have shown that people who are active tend to live longer lives. So whether you're going outside, I've been trying to just go for a mile walk or just go walk up and down the street. That's very helpful. Another thing that you can do if you're too scared to go outside, you can do a five senses walk through your home. So think about, what are you smelling? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? I did that in my home and I didn't realize there's birds chirping every day. And now I'm more aware of it and I previously wasn't. So that's also something that you can do. I also encourage people to, if you have access to it, using essential oils. So I've been having my oils going. My favorites are lemongrass and grapefruit. So I've had those going. If you don't have access to essential oils, you can easily take lemon pills, orange pills, a little bit of water, a little bit of cinnamon, and you can boil that, and that'll do pretty much the same job. And then also journaling, but if you're not into journaling, you can do word dumps. So if you're like thinking about a lot of different things, you can just plop them onto a sheet of paper. If you're not really feeling that, one thing I've been trying to do every day is just write one thing that I'm grateful for, because I feel like we're in a time where it's kind of easy to forget that. So just writing like one thing that I'm grateful for the day.
I think that's actually very smart, and that kind of goes into my next point about affirmations. Geraldine, I know Myra has been talking to us about affirmations, but did you have anything to add on the power of gratitude or the power of affirmations?
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the power of gratitude, I know that you kind of have a choice. So like you can either like sit there and like count all the things that are going wrong in your life. So it's like, oh, I can't go outside, like I don't have a job, or like there's germs everywhere, or like people are dying. So you can count like those types of things, or you can count the things that you're grateful for. And in my experience, I feel like obviously the list when you're first starting out of things that you're grateful for is kind of difficult, and you might feel dumb for saying it, like, oh, I'm grateful for being able to breathe, or I'm grateful for sight, because those are the things you take for granted. But I feel like just like starting small with things like that, especially during this time when there's so many other like negative things that you keep pointing out, and like don't feel bad if it's like difficult for you to start your list of things that you're grateful for. It's just kind of like your own little journey.
Yep, I completely agree. And I think it's important to point out the difference between gratitude and thankfulness. So when you're thankful for things, that means I'm hoping for this. I really want this to happen. You keep thinking about it and then it happens. But gratitude is something where it just happens and you weren't really asking for it, but it did just happen. One thing I have been trying to push myself to do is think about those things more often. So remember we went to Oprah, and one thing that she said that stood out for me, she was saying like she went on throughout her day and somebody had opened up a door for her, and now she was like, I have to make sure I write that down because I'm thankful for it. And it made me think about when you think about what you're grateful for throughout the day and you hold on to that one thing, you're so focused on that one positive thing that the other things, like the negative things, happen, but you're so focused on the positive thing, the negative things kind of get thrown to the side. And I feel like that's a good way to be. That's a positive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I actually tweeted about this today, but I was not having a good day today. Just like woke up on the wrong side of the bed, like in a bad mood, like feeling really upset with myself. And so then, but everywhere I went today, as I went on my walks and ran my errands in the neighborhood, like people opened doors for me. The lady at the register was nice to me. Um, what else happened? This girl, I've noticed since college, and she DM'd me saying like, oh, like new challenge, like DM a beautiful woman and post them on their story. So send me a picture of you, and I was like, oh my god, like that made me feel so nice. So just like that makes me want to be thankful for those things. Let me turn this back. Okay. Thankful for those little things. I actually up here, I put like these little like hexagons, and so I have pictures of loved ones, and I want to put like little affirmations like that because I look at
Yeah.
my prayer every day, and it's right there. I just added a little note of my mom, but those are all good points because when you think about it, like one thing we took for granted was being able to go outside and being able to be free where we go, and like that was taken from us. So I think it just kind of shows like to truly be thankful for what you have.
Yeah.
So another thing we wanted to talk about was getting out of a rut. So I know I've felt like I've been in a rut before. I feel like everybody's been in a rut. And I feel like a rut is when like you just can't see the silver lining and like things are just like not going well for you. So what are some tips on how to get out of a rut? I feel like a lot of people are in a rut right now.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in a rut myself. Again, it would be going outside, making sure that you're seeing that things are still happening outside. I feel like that's been like a really big thing for me. And I feel like also allowing yourself to be vulnerable. There's so much strength in being vulnerable, whether that be reaching out to a friend, whether that be talking to a pen pal. I actually just downloaded this cool app and it lets you have a pen pal, because I kind of struggle with opening up to people. It's not really my thing because I don't know what they'll do with that. Will they be able to sit with what I share? So I was like, let me try out this app, and I just downloaded it today. It's called Slowly, and it basically matches you with someone. You have like a fake name, a fake picture, so no one knows who it is, and same thing on the other end, so you can talk with that person. I also suggest, again, journaling, because that way you can look back on your progress. Another thing I like, because I'm into writing a lot, I also like letter writing. So if you're in a certain space in your life, let's say that you're in a grieving phase. I'll use me for an example. I'm in a grieving phase. So I've been thinking a lot about what would I say to my grieving self? And so you can look back on that letter and be like, oh, wow, like I'm happy I'm not in that space anymore. But if I were to come back to that space, I know some of the things that I would want to tell myself. So that's you even being like proactive rather than reactive. Also be a kid and color. Like I have these mandalas I print out and I color them. They're free online. Also, aromatherapy again. So what's getting really popular now is like aromatherapy Play-Doh. So that's like another thing. I also feel like we know what works for us. If you know that there's something that's worked for you in the past, because I'm listing out these things, but these are things that might not work for other people. If there's things that you notice that have worked for you in the past, use those things. We know what works for us. It's just up to us to actually utilize those things.
I think like what I've been again, like not to like rain on my own day, but like I was in a bad mood, right? And then I went to CVS and bought some Easter cards for family and friends to write them, and I just sat there and wrote 8 of them, and then I just looked at my spirits, because in the card I'm talking about why I'm thinking of them, why I love them, why I'm grateful for them. It's Easter, so just like that. What time is it? It's 5 o'clock now, and up until 2 p.m. like it took that for me to just get out of my head. So I was just like so on edge like all day for some reason.
Honestly, it'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, just like you just have bad days, and I feel like what happens when those bad days are happening frequently, and you know what I mean. So that's why I wanted to have Myra on and take this opportunity, all this downtime, if we're going to be on social media, like learn something new about mental health. So thank you, Myra, for coming on. So we had a submitted question, and they asked, what are some advice for people who are just starting their mental health journey?
Do you think they mean if they're trying to seek out a therapist? Like, what do you think they mean?
I think in this situation that this individual has been grappling with depression and kind of not like putting it in the back burner. So what if they're trying to move forward with their mental health journey, that might be talking to a therapist, that just might be admitting that you have depression and we want to work through it. I think everybody's mental health journey is different. So let's just start with before you go to the therapist, kind of just like foundational things.
I always tell my clients to document your journey, because oftentimes we experience things and then we go to tell this person and then we're like, oh my gosh, I can't remember this detail, that detail. And sometimes if you're like really struggling with your mental health, you might just forget it because our brain protects us. So it might tell you to forget that thing or forget this certain experience. So I would say to document it. I would also say to be patient and gentle with yourself, because those are going to be 2 very important things. Depending on what this person is like dealing with or struggling with, also encourage people to use apps. There's an app named Sam that's really good for anxiety. There's so many different apps that are out there. So I would say utilize those apps. Again, document it. And also, if you're wanting to get a therapist right away, and right now we're living in times where it's hard to go see somebody, there's also apps for that. And those apps are legit. I've done some research on them, so I would trust those apps.
Okay. What's an example of like one of those like online therapy apps that we could tell Qwns to try?
Oh my gosh. I just told somebody last week and I can't think of it. Let me think. Talkspace. That's what it's called.
Talkspace. Okay. I think that's especially like if you're maybe feeling intimidated to go to a therapist or therapy hasn't worked for you before, you can try something new in the phase that we're in, which is digital.
I've never done it, and it was just like not hilarious, but like I was just starting to like, I don't want to say get my life together. My dad always gets upset when I use that. I'm trying to think how it's like
Things are starting to.
it was like Tetris. Things were like slowly starting to be like, okay. I was like, I can see where things are going. Yeah. And then because February was like really bad for me, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit in this, and I was just like, that's just kind of how I envisioned it. Where I was like, I'm just gonna sit with everything and like whatever. I'm just gonna process everything this month. So February was really rough, and then March I was like, okay, things are like coming together. I like felt better, like mentally and emotionally. I was like, okay. I was like, the things are hitting the ground running, and then all of a sudden everything kind of like smashed and like deteriorated, and like not being able to have access to the things that like we had previously had access to before. So that's kind of like what I was going through, because like I kind of knew that I knew what depression was, but I was never like, oh, like I have that, or like that can be me. And then I felt almost guilty with being like, oh, I feel depressed, or like I am depressed, because I knew that there were other people that had gone through like more darker things than I had. So I didn't want to
never say that.
Or that's kind of like how I saw it. Like I was like, oh, like there's so many other elements of different things that people are going through that I was like, I didn't really give myself like the space or like
validity.
Yeah, the validity to be like, oh, like that's what it is.
Well, how did that change when your doctor like told you like, oh, you have depression?
Oh yeah, this was like, well, she told me that like I had depression and things were like, and she could see that I was living my life harder than I needed to live it, but she was also like my primary care doctor. And then she told me that like I had like access to like different like therapists like through my insurance. Then she didn't want to prescribe me anything, because like last year I was like prescribed like a mild, I don't even know what I was taking. Yeah, I was like a mild antidepressant, and then like the trigger that they said was like my job, so like I wasn't working there anymore, so then I like stopped taking them, and then we just kind of like never followed up on that. So I feel like now it's just like interesting to like be able to like navigate that space, because like I wouldn't even feel comfortable trying to find like a therapist. I wouldn't even know like what.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different options right now, and one of the things that how we adapted to this COVID situation is like now I have phone sessions. So I mean, obviously, since you have the same insurance as me, like you can talk to someone in my therapist group, and like you can do the phone, so that's an option. But I almost think that I don't want to say that that's better, but like to me, it's better because I'm literally sitting in my room like. It's like in the movies when you sit on like a chair, you lie down on the chair. I feel like that's what I'm doing. And then like, there's no pressure for me, like, because sometimes like, my therapist, like, I love you if you watch this, but sometimes she tends to yawn, and I don't think obviously sometimes people perceive yawning as boredom. Yeah, but for me, I just try to be like, you know what, just had a long day. I'm probably her 19th patient. Like, sorry. I'm trying to be like, what's the word? Contagious. But yeah, so I kind of like these phone sessions better because I can't like see her face.
I hate them.
I don't like the phone sessions.
I don't, because I feel like in person, well, it depends on the clients, because my little kids, they're just like so over it, which is fine. I get it, you're a kid. But I feel like with some of my clients, I'm so used to being like, oh, let me pull out this paper and we're gonna do this activity, or we're gonna do this, and like I'm so used to being like, let's go for a walk. Or with my clients who don't really want to sit and talk, I'm so used to being like, let's go for a run, let's go hiking. And now it's just like, now I gotta be so creative and come up with all these different things, so I'm kind of like over it. But Jerralyn, I want to come back to what you said. So you said that you let yourself sit in the depression, right? I feel like oftentimes people don't give themselves space to do that. And I feel like that's important. That's important because when depression comes back up, it might creep back up on you, but you know what it looks like for you, and you allowed yourself that space. And when you allow yourself that space, that's also allowing yourself the grace to be like, okay, this is something that I'm experiencing. Because rather than saying like, oh, I'm diagnosing you with this, or you have this now, I tell my clients like, you're having an experience of someone with symptoms of depression. I never say like you have depression. So I feel like that's important that you did that for yourself.
Yeah, and it was honestly very uncomfortable. And then I also like saw visually like how progressive like my room and my space got, like from like me being depressed. I had like absolutely zero motivation and absolutely zero inspiration to like do anything. So I was just like, I feel like I just like let it get so much. And then I remember I was talking to Janine about it, and like I mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, I was like super depressed and like super down like for the past few months. And my boyfriend was like, are you really depressed? And I was just like, yes. But I didn't realize like I wasn't really like talking about it because like I feel like no one really wants to like the way that I kind of look at it. It's like when your mom tells you to clean your room and you shove everything in your closet and you be like, no one open the closet because then everything's gonna come out. Like that's kind of like how I viewed like my mental health, like just like shoving things away. And like when you walk in my room, like everything looks really neat, but I have like hella shit in the closet. So I kind of feel like that's how I felt about it.
Most definitely. No, I hear you completely. I just want to give a tip to your to the people that are watching and listening. If you are working at home, I highly suggest you have a space where you work. And when you're done with work, you leave that space. And when it's time to work, you work in just that space. Because when you're working at home, I mean, this is something that's new for me. Oftentimes the lines can get blurred. And so you don't want to be waking up in the morning where you usually be eating a breakfast. Instead you're finding yourself working, or it comes dinner time and instead of eating dinner you're working. So that's something I would definitely share.
Do you think that the face of like therapy and like mental health has changed because of the crisis, like having to go virtual?
I think that it has, but in a good way, because I'm noticing a lot of people are offering like all these free virtual supports where I'm like, whoa, this is great. But I think for me in particular, I am very specific about the therapist that I want, and I do a lot of heavy research. And so the therapist, I don't know if she like has some stuff going on, but it's like, well, a few different therapists I reached out to, it seems like they're more unavailable. So I would say that's probably like the downside, that a lot of therapists have a lot of things going on. I am happy about the resources. I know Taraji P. Henson just started a fund for people that are low income. So she's going to be offering like free therapy for a little while. So I feel like that's really cool. All these great things are happening.
Yeah, I feel like people care. I feel like there's no like, I mean, there's obviously like, hopefully not always, but right now, like there's always going to be like that stigma against mental health. And so I feel like, and mental illness. And I feel like people now, like, they're acknowledging that you may have issues right now. Well, you might be anxious, you might be depressed, and that's okay.
I was talking to my dad the other day and I was like, Dad, I've just been feeling really down. And he's probably just like, you know what, you're just overtired, you just need some sleep. And I was like, no, I don't, I'm fine. I was like, I actually sleep way too much.
Yeah, so it's not, and I feel like also kind of touching back on what Jared said about like pushing everything away and like not talking. I mean, that can come from a lot of places, I think. Like obviously I'm not a therapist, so Myra, feel free to step in. But like I feel like that can come from like the stigma against mental health, like how we were brought up, and like, you know, we had issues with confrontation, communication. But I feel like at the end of the day, like it's nice to talk and like clear your head about something. So I would definitely would suggest therapy for you. And like obviously like I'm here, but like I know it's different talking to someone, you know, about how you feel. And yeah, I get it.
I think it's also like pulling the funds together. Like I could justify getting my nails done for like $65, $80 every 2 weeks, but I couldn't justify. How much is it? $35?
30.
Yeah, so like I think my concept of like money is way off.
Because you don't, but the thing is, like, think about that. What you're telling yourself, you're telling yourself that you don't prioritize your mental health.
True.
You know what I mean? And I feel like you should make that more of a priority than your nails. And I know it's hard.
I know. I would literally have to take my nails off. I was like, I hate it here.
Yeah. Do you feel like your physical health is important?
My physical health, yes, but then it's also like, I think my physical health is yes, and I did get sick, and I was like blessed with like dropping 15 pounds without having to do anything, which I know like isn't a big deal. Like I feel like it is, but I feel like it is, and I feel like I've been more cognizant about what I'm putting into my body because I feel like I'm working so much, and I work at like a grocery store, so I have to like physically move, so I'm not really worried too much about activity because like I know how many calories I burn and stuff at work. And I feel like I'm more so now being like, now I want to go to the gym and obviously I can't, but like being able to like go outside or go on a walk or be able to go to work and be active. But I think more importantly, noticing what I'm putting into myself and how it's making me feel, because now that we have so much time, I like actually notice what's going on with like my digestive tract, and I'm just like, oh, like that, like isn't that like that hurt my stomach, like that hurt. So I feel like, and also too, like knowing now I see like which foods like make me feel better.
Yeah,
I did before. Yeah, in conclusion, no dairy, but like, but being able to see like, oh, like I actually want some vegetables. So I think there was a period of time when this all started where I was eating out a lot because my boyfriend would be like, oh, do you want something? Like, let's go to something with something for like us to get up and do. And then now I'm just like, I literally just want vegetables.
Yeah,
like, I don't want fast food.
No, I asked you because I feel like oftentimes we like put all this effort into our physical health, And then it's just like, well, what about your mind? What about your mental health? Like, you can do all that work for your physical health, but your mental health can impact your body just as much as it can impact your brain. So I want to push you to think about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to be more active, because that's something I was told too, is that they can change the dosage of my medicine, they can give me more medicine, but at the end of the day, like, I need to like do the work, and I need to be active, because that is what they know will help me with everything. So I've been like trying to walk a mile every day. Eventually I'll start running, but like not right now. But yeah. But just like do you have any closing remarks, Myra, for people, just something if they want to leave them something, like a little nugget to think about, or anything like that, something positive?
What would be my nugget? I feel like what I always tell my clients, I always tell them, I'm not the expert. I don't know everything. You're the expert of your life. So if you know what works for you, utilize that and try to be proactive about it. So if you know that, for example, this is so not me, so just an example. If you know that running 5 miles every day is what keeps you going, and if you do it in the morning, you have the best day, why aren't you making sure that you do that every day? So if you know what works for you, make sure that you're doing it. So I know, like, my thing, I love really hot shower, and I put oil at the bottom of it, aromatherapy oil, because that makes me have a good night's rest and it ends my day well. And I always try to do that. So get your thing. If you don't know your thing, what'd you say?
Where do you put the oil? Like, doesn't it like go down the drain immediately, or?
No, so, well, yeah, it does. But what I do is you drop like 5, because I have one of those showers, it's just a shower, not a bathtub. So I just drop like 5 oils at the bottom, and then once it's all steamy, it just rises up.
Or maybe you can put it like where the soap goes. You know what I mean?
I didn't even think about the soap. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna do
so it doesn't go down the drain. I like that. Okay, so I've been using aromatherapy just because it smells good, but like now that I know there's actually like it helps with like it has purpose, that I'll try to look for some. I'll be like, where's the anxiety one? Like, where's
there's
the
this
stress relief one?
There's a shop in North Park. I forget. Oh, I think it's called Reggae World on University.
Yeah.
And we went there, and they have like a bunch of essential oils and essential oil mixes. And the guy that owns the place, his name is Zulu, and we bought like, it's like this big, and it's called 1,000 Wishes.
It just smells
smells good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like if you're able to come over one day, like we'll show it to you. Like it smells so good.
And then he has another one that he's like, this one is for falling in love. And I was like, what do you mean? But it smelled really good. It was like one of the oils that like you put on yourself. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I want to get more like into like holistic health. Like I'm looking into going to a holistic chiropractor.
Nice. Is the one that Renee was talking about?
Yeah. So I still need to check it out. I don't know if this lady or person is in Chula Vista or what, but I'd be willing to check it out.
Because I also feel like holistic medicine's like not really looked at. I feel like
professionally.
Not really looked at professionally, but I feel like it was the vibes. Like, because our family, like our uncle traced back our family on Guam, and we were like healers and stuff. And then obviously like before like the pharmaceutical industry came around, like there were different types of medicine. And I feel like we just forget about that. But I feel like it'd be interesting to get into that now, since not that you don't have access to all that, but like you could do it at home because like you're not doing anything else.
It's funny that you say that, because when I was in grad school, we were studying about how kids with ADHD, they were doing like an experiment where it was like if they spend time around a bunch of grass and trees, that their symptoms decrease. So it was like a bunch of kids who they stopped taking their medication because their parents just had to let them go play in grass for an hour. And I was like, it started making me think about how like your day is different when you go for a walk, or your day is different when you go in the park. So I definitely agree with holistic medicine. I feel like it's the way to go.
We're gonna definitely check it out.
Yeah.
And if I go to that chiropractor, I will let you know.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Myra, so much for joining us for the first Tea with Queens Tea Time session. We appreciate your insight, expertise, and for anybody else going through a hard time, like if you have any questions, you can reach out to Myra. Follow her on Femme Scholar. That's her nonprofit, or her on Instagram, Myra Shanice.
Or her podcast
at BWH_pod. And we'll link all of these accounts in the notes. But thanks, Myra, and we hope everyone has a good day. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.